So sorry. I am actually at my local library that's up the street from me. My internet went out about 15 minutes ago and I could not figure out how to fix it in time, so I drove here. Anyway, I'm just going to jump in. My presentation is all about the importance of phonemic awareness instruction in the classroom and how to tie it in at home. This project was for kindergarten students, but you could easily apply the things that I did in really any grade level classroom. This year in my kindergarten classroom, I had a huge focus on phonemic awareness every day and phonics in a whole group lesson as well as small group activities. Families were supplied with a phonemic awareness calendar every month. Each night had a different quick activity that they could do, while their kid is taking a bath or while they're sitting waiting for soccer practice to start. I wanted it to be quick activities that would be beneficial. Every month, I sent out a video that explained what the activities were, and I modeled it for parents that might not know. And then towards the end of the year, families joined in on a Google Meet once a week. That was for our PA time, and they got to see what their kids were doing in the classroom, and they got to participate with us. If they came, their kid's name got put in a raffle, and I gave out prizes at the end of every lesson. Throughout the year, I used the DRA word analysis to monitor their progress, specifically in phonemic awareness. This is the example of the curriculum that I used. It's the Hegarty curriculum. My kids call it the Big Blue Book. We have lessons every day. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes. And the lessons are scripted Monday through Friday. And there's about almost 30 weeks of instruction in here. Here's an example of what the week would look like. So this is about 1/3 of the lesson. If you're unfamiliar with Hegarty, it reviews PA skills, rhyming, onset fluency, blending, identifying medial sounds, and there are usually 2 more pages for every week of specific skills that they need to practice with. They took turns doing this with me or my instructional assistant, depending on where they were in our small group rotation. This is the example of the monthly calendar that I sent home. I did not make these. I found these from another resource. They're cited at the bottom of that calendar. But what I really loved about it is that they were differentiated. So towards the end of the year, I started sending some more challenging activities home with my kids that were more ready for first grade. But my kids that were still kind of struggling with these skills, I kept them on the lower level calendar. If you're unfamiliar with the DRA, this is the developmental reading assessment. I didn't scan in my class's actual data for privacy reasons, but I put in a blank one so you can see the skills that I was specifically tracking this year. In my classroom, students had a 30-minute block where we focused on PA and phonics skills. They participated in stations, and then every day they were in a reading group as well. I'm so sorry, there's a motorcycle driving down the street right now. This is just so great. Every day we followed up in a reading group that would review what we did in PA that morning. And at the beginning of my Google Meets with families, I didn't have a ton of participation. So I started incentivizing it and saying like, I'll put your kid's name in a raffle and hyping it up throughout the week so that more families joined, which really helped a lot. At the end of the year, I also did a survey for parents, asking them to share things that they felt like their child struggled with at the beginning of the year, but how they were improving throughout the year. And I shared some of the statistics from that survey. So at the beginning of the year, 51% of my parents said that blending sounds to make a word was the biggest challenge. But by the end of the year, 71% of those parents said that that was the area their child had improved the most in. So I thought that was a really cool statistic. And 30% of my parents reported that their child was doing better with identifying a middle vowel sound, which is something we had really struggled with as a class, and we had a lot of intentional time on this year. I also just put some quotes from parents that were in the survey. I asked for them to share specific ways that they felt like their child was growing as a reader and a writer this year. I do have 5 of these quotes are from male students. I do have female students, but my class ratio is actually crazy. I have 15 boys and 3 girls. So most of my students are boys. which has made it very challenging because, as you all know, sometimes younger boys have a hard time getting motivated for literacy activities. And I've been really trying to keep this super interactive and full of ways for them to get their energy out. And it's been really helpful this year. So I'm going to share a little bit of my student data results as well. Even though everyone received the PA instruction, I had 9 students that I chose for an additional tiered intervention for PA skills. I assessed them this week, and I was so excited that 8 of the 9 students passed every task in the first 10 DRA word analysis task. So that tells me as a teacher, they don't need this additional intervention anymore. That was super exciting, and every student improved in every area. I did have one student that didn't completely pass it, but he showed growth in every task. And as a whole, if you were to watch one of my PA lessons now compared to August, the students are so much more confident in those skills, and it's transferring into their reading and their writing as well. I did put just some student examples of the DRA. What I want to point out is there were 3 different times I gave them this assessment. And if you look at the example on the left, which was all about identifying beginning sounds, at the beginning of the year in September, the student was only able to identify 2 similar beginning sounds, but by this week, they identified all 8. So I think that's really exciting. You can see similar results on the other students for the same task as well. I put 2 more in here just to show that throughout the year they were making growth. Their December looks better than September. So even in the middle of the year, I was able to see that what we were doing in the classroom on PA was helping them. I have some video examples in here. I am not going to make you watch this monthly video of me explaining PA skills to families, but I did want to link it in here to show that that was something I sent home. I'm not sure if you will be able to see very much of this video because of my internet connection, and I'm not going to play all 8 minutes. But what you can see here is that my students are engaged in this PA activity, and throughout the lesson, different parents pop in on the Google Meet and get to participate with us as well. So I'm going to pause that there. But we did that every day, and once a week, parents came in and family members came in with us to do those lessons. Oops, I don't want to play both of those. Just a few challenges this year. The project that I actually did is completely different than the one I pitched at the beginning of summer. I'm sure you guys have had similar problems where the COVID regulations changed again at the beginning of the year, and we were not allowing family members into the classroom. So I decided to do Google Meets instead. Which honestly I think worked better because it allowed for more families to just quickly tune into the meeting and then be able to go back to work or wherever it was they needed to do without having to type their whole night or their whole day. I kind of stated that I had limited responses in parent surveys originally, so I started incentivizing parent participation for their child. And my other challenge was, when hindsight, I wish that I would have invited them into Google Meets throughout the year instead of just waiting till this last grading period. I think that was a little bit of pride that snuck in, that I didn't really want families to watch us while we were still learning, but I think that that would have actually been really beneficial for them. So if I do this again next year, I'm going to have probably like once a month Google Meets throughout the year. That's going to be one of my next steps. And then I also want to incentivize the monthly calendars. I didn't really specifically bribe students to participate in those. So I know that families were, because they would respond on the surveys. But I think if I do this again, I'm going to have, if you return your calendar, you can get XYZ, just to make sure that it's more motivating. I already shared I want to make Google Meets a monthly activity, and I think that I would really like to have adults being more interactive in those Google Meets, where maybe like the very last game, the grown-ups are the ones playing it instead of watching their kids. And I think that a lot of them would be really interested in doing that. So I might try that next year. That is all I was going to share this morning. So I don't know if I take questions or what this next few minutes needs to look like.
We will do our next group, and then at the end, we will take questions. We'll do questions for everybody. All right, next group, are you ready?
Yes,
we're ready. We're just going to present our screen.
We will do whatever you need to do.
I can't see anything. Okay. Can you see our screen?
Can you see our screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
So our project is Genius Hour, Sparking a Sense of Wonder. And we are both teachers at North Middletown Elementary. I'm Amy Brown, and I teach 5th grade. I've been teaching 22 years. I'm the only 5th grade teacher at my school, so I teach all content areas, and I have 26 students this year.
I'm Kaylin Crow. I teach 4th grade, language arts and social studies. It's my 2nd year teaching, but last year I taught all of the subjects as well. We had quite a big 4th grade, so we broke them up this year. But I'm lucky to have a teammate to collaborate with this year. And we're from just a very small school.
We're super small. We only have 149 students in our entire school. Most of our students are economically disadvantaged. We're way out in the country, and we only have 9 teachers. So we're super small, like a little family, kind of like a private school, but we deal with a lot of high needs and students that lack motivation, students that live with grandparents. So reading isn't always a priority, reading and writing within our families. Over the summer, when we were doing our sessions, we were really captivated by Genius Hour. And one of our reasons is trying to bring a sense of joy into our classroom. Students have had a very difficult few years. We didn't see a lot of motivation, and we really wanted to bring happiness and joy back into our classroom. So we felt this would be a great addition to our classroom, and it's basically an inquiry-based approach that's totally driven by a student's wonder question or something that they are interested in researching. And as you can see throughout our presentation, it has given a real world purpose for reading, writing, and speaking, and our kids are absolutely obsessed in 4th and 5th grade with Genius Hour.
Our Genius Hour inspirations. So during our KRP summer session, they showed us quite a few different resources. One of those that they introduced us to was Start with Joy, Designing Literacy Learning for Student Happiness. And in that book, it kind of talks about Genius Hour, how it works, and some of the benefits of doing it. What do you do with an idea? That is a book that we will hopefully have time to show you a little bit later. I think
it's a picture book.
It's a picture book. And then Wonderopolis is a great site. Like, it takes questions that kids submit that they wonder about, and then they try to do an informational video or passage answering the kids' questions. And there's some pretty interesting questions. And then we used videos and examples of Genius Hour projects on YouTube to kind of inspire our kids, because it was something completely new and it helped them kind of understand what we're asking of them. And then they just took off. Okay, family engagement. For family engagement, we would send parent pictures of their students presenting or working on their projects. COVID kind of limited what we were able to do. We didn't have a lot of guests up until maybe the last few weeks we've been allowing parents in the school. We also allowed students to work on their Genius Hour projects at home so that parents would be more involved, know what their kids are learning about, and just kind of like good discussions and learning at home. And then we would send parents the final product. So whether it be a poster or a PowerPoint or a video that we took, pictures, we made sure that we kept parents completely engaged in what's going on.
I think in the future, now that we can allow families back into our building, and this has just recently happened, next year, I think it would be a great idea to set up like stations around our gym or our cafeteria where parents can come in and watch the kids actually present and rotate through the different stations, but we just couldn't do that this year.
We even have a student working on a Genius Hour right now, and she's completely motivated to present it to the whole school, which I think is really exciting that she's so comfortable in public speaking and her ability of Genius Hour to want to do that too. So that's big school engagement too.
So this is just a quote that we felt was super important. The greatest gift you can give a child is an imagination, and we have really tried to let this happen this year. Of course, we're going to come across barriers and challenges. The beginning of the year, getting Genius Hour implemented in our classroom was really challenging. Our students really wanted to be told exactly what to do. We started off with a basic little packet, like, making lists of things that we wondered about. And we went through an example but they just wanted it taught like a lesson. So we ended up showing some videos from YouTube of classes that were implementing Genius Hour and letting them watch some presentations. And that kind of changed things a little bit. We also purchased lots of books to do with, why things happen. And they had little notebooks to carry with them, things that they would wonder about, and they would write them down. And they started to be risk takers, but in the beginning, they really wanted it to be teacher driven. Finally, they started to take risks, and as more kids would research and present, other students became motivated. Another challenge is providing time. We do this kind of differently in our classrooms. My students go to activity at 8:10, and we start our day at 7:40. So I give that time in the morning for research. And some students do it independently, some students work together. We do all of our presentations on Friday or the last 15 minutes in our day, but there's so many chances for them to grow as a reader and a writer and a researcher, and they know how to quote text, they know not to plagiarize, all those things, but giving up time, but it's such valuable time. And letting students be comfortable with student choice, letting them do the things that they're interested in versus trying to steer them in the direction that you want to. You'll realize as you're teaching, like last week, we had a reading lesson on Amelia Earhart. And then kids were like, oh, that would be a great Genius Hour to figure out what really happened to her. So they'll start picking up things from content, but they also want to do things about video games and fidgets, but it's still real world reading and writing based on what they are interested in, and that's huge.
Okay, so this is some Genius Hour in my class. You can see all of these students are very focused, engaged. I do allow them, as you can see over here, they can work in groups. They can make posters, PowerPoints to present. They were actually excited to present on Halloween. We had the option of watching a Halloween themed show or to present Genius Hours. And my students actually chose to present Genius Hour instead of watching a cartoon, like I said. And then you can see some of their questions. Why do dogs drool? A safety PowerPoint, and then this is just them as a whole working on it. And they were so focused, like these students wanted more room to work on their posters. The classroom was kind of distracting, and some of them wanted to go out in the hallway. And this is just what Genius Hour is like the whole entire time it's being done. Kids are focused, they're engaged, and they're driving themselves to learn about something they're interested in. And one more thing I'll say is that we had Rachel's Challenge come visit our school. And the next thing I knew, I had so many students doing Genius Hours about kindness and what it's like to be a good friend and how to make friends. And I just thought it was awesome that, things like that are inspiring them and they're actually taking more time to learn about those things. And because of Rachel's Challenge and then the availability of Genius Hour too.
So Genius Hour in my class, several students started out in the beginning making posters and things like that. It only took one kid using a presentation. We use
Google Slides.
I couldn't think of the word. Google Slides. They're obsessed with Google Slides. They have become pros. They can insert music, they can insert video, they give credit, they cite sources. Like, it's amazing how they've grown this year. As you can see, these friends right here are presenting about, I think it's Naruto, something they're very interested in. The kids are captivated by presentations like this because they all have those interests. Some of these boys in this group would have never at the beginning of the year came up in front of class and talked and read and research. Like, I'm just amazed, super proud. As you can see, this one's how do you make, it's a quilt making presentation and the Alcatraz prison. Some of the things they come up with totally amaze me. And some presentations might be 2 minutes. Sometimes they're much longer. My kids have become very engaging with their presentations. They've started making Kahoots and Bookets and all these things to assess the class's knowledge based on what they taught. So they are super, super creative with that. Here are some other student examples from my class. Sometimes they like to just be independent, but they really like to work in groups too. So as you can see, secrets behind logos, this one was awesome. I was just shocked and I learned so much from those kids, things that we see in logos that now that I can't unsee. As you see, there's like little initials down here in the corner. They have started putting initials to remind them who needs to present that slide. And I think that is just such great thinking there. So animals that are going extinct, creepy facts about Kentucky. So this has inspired another student in our class to start interviewing people around our building because there's stories that have been passed down that our school could be haunted. So now I have a friend that's interviewing all the faculty and taking notes, and she wants to present her Genius Hour once she's finished her research. So sometimes they do interviews, sometimes they research online or in other books. This was a big hit in my class, the history of toys and fidgets. As you can see, they're phenomenal with their graphics. This is a student that is not normally one to get up and present in class, not one to talk a lot, not motivated to read, but if he can read about how to build an engine or how to become a diesel mechanic or logos of cars, he will read all day long and use his real world writing and research skills. And the Hindenburg disaster, I had a whole group of boys work on this project. So as you can see, huge variety, but it's totally student driven. Our students had a survey early last week, just so we could kind of see their growth and their feelings. And as you can see, these students all said such positive things. They think that Genius Hours made them a better reader and researcher and writer. I love the one that says, I think we should have Genius Hour next year because you can learn very informative things from it. You learn from your classmates and yourself. Genius Hour can make students be able to talk in front of people. These are fifth graders. And if you're familiar with, that age group, even into middle school, they are not students that really like to put themselves in front of others. My students beg for this time to research and present. I have an ongoing list in the back of my room on a dry erase board, and it's always full of when they're ready to present.
For our professional impact, we said that Genius Hour is certainly an activity we'll continue to use. This was both of our first year implementing it, and I couldn't imagine it not being carried into next year. Like we said earlier, it's an inquiry-based approach, and our goal was that students would become better researchers, learners, readers, and would also inspire their creativity and curiosity and become better speakers. You know, like she said, that's something they struggle with, is the confidence to speak in front of others. And Genius Hour really just takes them out of their comfort zone and allows them to become comfortable with it. And then this was a picture of the friendship one and kindness presentation that was done in my classroom. And then survey results. So 94% of students surveyed or answered that they do like Genius Hour. And this was done just a few days ago, our surveys. 89% of students believe that Genius Hour has made them a better researcher, writer, and reader. And then 100% of students enjoy being able to choose their own topics to learn and present for Genius Hour. So choice really motivated students, and they really liked that.
All right, I think we're finished with our presentation. So I assume this is time to ask questions for both presenters.
Yes. Yes. So any questions?
I'm sure that's to keep you in and calm.
I know that I took several notes. Of course, with Meg, I'm also a kindergarten teacher. And I do Haggerty in my classroom. I like the Google Meet and involving parents during the day. And you use the DRA analysis. And I wonder why you didn't use the Haggerty analysis.
I'm so sorry. I have used both. The reason I liked the DRA word analysis better is it's just a little bit quicker to give. I feel like the Haggerty assessment is longer, and trying to get everyone assessed on it was just a big time commitment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. But I like the calendar and just the parent involvement. It's just really awesome that you can do that. And
Thank you.
I think we have to get a little bit creative now with parent involvement, because to a degree, I wonder, are we ever going to let parents back in the schools? Because I know some principals will find a way not to let them back in. With Amy and Kaylin, I said, I'm a kindergarten teacher, but I so think that on a smaller level, like you're teaching how teaching is supposed to be. And that's amazing, you know, that you're doing risk takers, because I know, you know, going through college and stuff, when you give me this wide open thing, I can't do it. Now you tell me what you need me to do, and I'm going to do that. But you're teaching these kids how they need to be taught. And I just think you've done all this stuff in 1 year. What's next year going to bring, you know, with this new set of kids, and the ones that have already went through it in fourth grade and fifth grade? Just next year is going to be that much more amazing than what you all have done. And just that you allow your students to be flexible, that they can learn about what they want to, and you don't have them sitting in their seats. If they need to go to the hall and sit on the floor, they need to go somewhere quiet, that they have all these flexibility things that they can do. I thought these were just both awesome presentations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And like, I also came from a small school, and these days that's a blessing that you can still teach at a small school and you have that community. And while I think parents, you know, that lower income and so forth, they still do the best they can. And that's not necessarily way up here, but it's the best they can do. And you still appreciate that as a teacher.
Yes, for sure.
And the Wonder Office, like, you can use that with smaller grades too, can't you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking like that goes to the upper and the higher grades, definitely. And going back to the other with the Google Meets, like, you all can do the Google Meets to a degree with their presentation and stuff, so parents can see that and they can kind of see kind of the work that goes behind it. Like all of that adds up to the presentation. So these can kind of feed off of each other to a degree, I think.
Yeah, I was liking the fact that she was talking about doing Google Meets and allowing parents to kind of step into the classroom without actually being there. Like I had never really thought about doing that after virtual ended.
Yeah.
Well,
I do too. And like they always wonder, what do we do all day? If they, could see a video, you're actually teaching their children and their children are involved and stuff. I think that is a really good thing just to kind of help bridge some of that information to them.
It's also really great to do a Google Meet because you decide when grown-ups can come in and then you decide when grown-ups leave.
Yeah.
I know at our school it's a big problem. Parents want to stay like all day, even though it was only a short little activity. So it's just been good to keep our classroom privacy the way we want it.
Yeah.
for sure.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I'm curious. Is it Kaylin and I'm sorry, is your name Amy?
Yes.
Okay. I'm curious if you have talked to like the primary teachers in your school and if they've become curious about implementing it for younger students. I know I teach first grade. My classroom, to be honest, is more like a kindergarten room functionally, just because of all the kids being behind from the past couple of years. But I'm just curious if like your school as a whole is interested in implementing it and differentiating so younger kids have access to, or if that's been talked about at all.
I think that probably needs to be our next step, is maybe presenting maybe a short PD or something to the rest of our school. We've been so isolated most of the year, kind of keeping within our own classrooms, but we're so small. Kids talk about Genius Hour all the time. And I have a little girl that's walking around with a notebook right now, interviewing all the people, all the teachers in our building about just things that have happened or noises that they've heard in the school. They're very interested in the paranormal and those types of things. But I think at the kindergarten through second grade level, you could take like a list of things that they wonder about, just as, throughout as you're teaching lessons, and maybe do a whole class Genius Hour. And then they could present together or work in small groups to come up with maybe one fact or something they could add to the Genius Hour. But I think that definitely needs to be a next step for us here at our school. But I think it can be implemented throughout all grades. This is a great book to start with. It's What Do You Do with an Idea? And it's a very basic picture book. It would be great to start with the little ones, but the fifth grade, this is how we started our year with. And then every kid has a Wonder notebook, but just books like The Big Book of Why, just any type of book that's full of questions. Kids love these to just flip through, and then they can find ideas like, why do boats float? That could be something that's simple, that they're just full of those questions and they're obsessed. They always have those checked out from the classroom library.
And usually National Geographic, they have a lot of those.
Yes,
very
much. And at the half price bookstore, I got these very cheap, like $2 a piece, because they have lots of nonfiction that's full of questions for these kiddos. But What Do You Do with an Idea? That's a pretty new one. But that's how we inspired our kids in the beginning.
And even at the 4th and 5th grade level, I think that's a pretty deep, that's a deep subject,
Before we finish, I also just wanted to say to you, Meg, I had a very similar project, and I feel like it was really inspiring to hear about yours, because I heard a lot of pieces from yours that it was almost like a couple things like, oh my gosh, like that's exactly what mine was missing. Like I needed the motivation for parent engagement. I also did videos, but I think doing the live video would have been really awesome. And like the calendar makes it so much easier on you to just do it once a month with the activities versus like I was doing like an activity once a week. And yeah, so thank you for sharing that. It inspired me.
Thank you. I'm very sorry you were doing something once a week. I'm sure that was a lot of work. And I'm more than happy to share those calendars if you would like them for next year.
I think that's something we all have to remember, you know, because it's been hard teaching times for the last year or two. And I know myself, the past 2 weeks have been the worst 2 weeks I think I've ever had teaching with behavior and stuff. And sometimes we just do too much and we shouldn't kill ourselves. You know, sometimes we just gotta get there at the beginning of the morning. We gotta get them home and just get through the rest and don't kill ourselves doing things too much. You know, just keep it simple. So you all don't work yourselves too much because it is almost May. We got it. Anything else? Well, you all were great. Your presentations were great. It's over now.
Thank
So
you
you
so
can
much.
just chill the rest of the day and check out some other people. I appreciate you all, and I guess I'm going to go ahead and end and figure out how to start the next one, okay?
Okay, thank
You
you.
all have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you.
Well then.